live or are we not? We're live.
It says that we've been live for 15 seconds, so who knows when it actually went live.
Oh, man. What were we talking about?
I don't know. Probably something much better than what we normally talk about. So today, the most costly mistakes that teams make with online leads.
Yes. And just in general, as far as teams are concerned, I was putting together some information on when to start a team, how to start a team, how to not screw it up. You know what I mean? Because I think that that's a topic of interest. And, there's a lot of things that amazingly you don't realize aren't working until you have a problem, or you do them because you see somebody else do them and you think that's the way it's done, but you don't know exactly what it is that is not getting you to where you want to go. And specifically what I mean by that, on a team, a lot of times, well, to begin, I guess, the conversion mechanism and the lead generation mechanism and really the system that people have to have in place in order to start a team is where people they don't start with that, unfortunately. They start with the desire to have a team, and then they go get some agents, and they kind of mash it all together and hope that it works, right? And for me, I did that to an extent. I'll never forget having like one of my guys calling basically an operations manager. She was my only employee at the time, and asking her to do like something for him, like she was his personal assistant. There was no clear cut, lines. There was no real understanding. And the challenge with that is, as it pertains to online leads, it's kind of the same thing. It's kind of a free for all. And if you think about, the reason for somebody coming to join your business, to join your team in the first place, if you're attracting the right people, you darn well better have a system in place to make them money. I mean, the way that the mob keeps people loyal is they give them a way to make money. They make them money, right? So if you're not making somebody money and they're on your team, let me tell you, especially in this market, they're going to be looking for other avenues. They're going to be looking for other places to go. Don't let them get in front of somebody like me, because I'm going to ask them that question. Like, what are they doing as your team leader to make you successful? Are they providing you with business? Are they providing you with leads? Are they providing you with systems? The market has shifted. How have they shifted their strategy for you to make money in this market, right? And a lot of, I can tell you right now, a lot of agents wouldn't have an answer to that question. Neither would the team leader, right? And we see it all the time, Jake. They'll go and they'll buy a product. They'll buy our product, for example. They'll throw it at their team, and then they wait for the feedback. Like, if you're going to spend money to make somebody successful, you better have some clear-cut parameters on what they're going to do in return and what the understanding is as far as their responsibilities for you to continue to make that spend, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think what's fascinating is the people that struggle, like I was talking, actually I wasn't talking to, I was listening to Braden talk to somebody yesterday who was like, I've done this, I've tried, I've bought all these different lead sources, and like, this is how I knew she was a winner. She said, I must be missing something, right? She wasn't like, this stuff didn't work or all this stuff was bogus.
Working across the country, you can see the top agents all around the country running the same plays from the same playbook, right? Why is it working for you? I'll tell you why. Because you haven't invested the time to master the system and the skills to really make it duplicatable, and you have to manage it before you delegate. So you can't just go be like, here you go master this thing, right? I mean, that would be that's crazy. Why am I echoing?
Are you? You don't sound echoey to me.
I keep hearing myself. I think that right now in this market, the best thing that an agent could do or a team leader could do for their agents is have a way to get them listings, help them understand how to make that shift right now, and give them the tools and the strategies to do it. But just as important, you have to have the metrics to monitor. When we plug into a team that has all those metrics in place, they have accountability in place, they know how to convert already. Online leads works perfectly, right? It's these teams that don't have that maturity in their business yet, or even solo agents, right? That are relying entirely on the system instead of their own internal skill set of being able to convert. You know, if I didn't have on my team a proprietary way for my agents to make money, which was basically me generating leads, and then a machine to convert those leads, right? So we had ISAs, right? We had the whole 9 yards. I couldn't have kept them. They wouldn't have stayed with me, you know? And the proof of that was in the recession when a lot of them left. I didn't have a new strategy for them to be able to keep their head above water and make money at the time. And, you know, I was looking all around blaming the external forces like, oh, well, it's the market's fault. But the truth was that was wrong. Like when I looked at the market, when I looked at the MLS and I saw what was going on as far as transactions were concerned, people were still making money. You know, like I was just making less of it. And it's because I blamed these external sources. And so I think, you know, I think that it's pretty common. It's a pretty common situation for a lot of teams. They just go and they try something. It looks good. They throw it out there, and then they don't have any metrics. They don't have any accountability. They don't know what it's supposed to look like, and they don't even really care, right? Like, I'm just too busy for that. I'm team leader, and I'm important. Okay. That's a bad habit to get into. That level of hubris is what led me from like number 1 tumbling all the way down to like number 60, you know, because I felt the same way. But guess what? You got to work if you want to make money in this business, and there's a season for everything, you know. There's a season for staying the course, and then there's a season for looking for, you know, ways to compete in a different market. And so as the market shifts, you have to shift, and you have to go find those answers if you're going to be leading people. The symptom of not doing that is watching them leave. Every 3 months, one of them considers making a move, right? Every agent considers leaving their brokerage once every quarter. The broker pisses them off. You know what I mean? A coworker makes them mad. They see some shiny object. They're like, ooh, I should go over there and see what that's about, you know? I mean, it's just how it goes, right? Yep. Yeah, especially in today's really competitive race as far as teams and brokerages and things of that nature are concerned, right?
Yep.
Like there's a lot of recruiting. There's a lot of stuff going on trying to get people from here to there, you know. And the next thing that pops up, like EXP, well, now there's a couple of competitors behind them. There's Real and there's Fathom, you know, and they're all poaching. And so the only thing that I ever had that kept people loyal was, again, a system that made them money that they would look at and they'd be like, oh, that's too big for me to do by myself. I'm grateful that that's there. I'm grateful that I don't have to worry about those pieces. You know, I was having a conversation with a potential sales guy here yesterday. I was telling him what we do. He's like, are you kidding me? And I was like, yeah, that's what we do for our sales guys. He's like, cuts out 85% of my current job in sales. He's like, if I just only was able to speak to the decision makers like that, he said, I don't know what I'd be capable of, you know? It's the same thing you want to do for your agents. You want to keep them in front of the people who are going to make them money. But they got to have a system, and you got to have a system, and you got to create this system. You got to get really curious about the system.
And that's the difference between teams that can scale rapidly and the teams that constantly have to like scale up to a certain level and then readjust the systems and then scale up again. You know what I mean? Like literally the root of every single problem really anyone has, whether you're a team, a mega team, a brand new team, a single agent, the root of cause of angst and pain and anything going on is just the lack of systems in your business to have consistency in numbers and knowing what to expect, and saying that like you got to look at it like you've got a pencil factory, right? And this much lead and this much wood come in the door, and then this many pencils go out, right? Like, and you got little shops set up all over the place.
I had a slide one time. I was giving a presentation that talked about the price of raw metal, and then if you were to turn that raw metal into one thing, it was worth this amount. Another thing was worth this amount, all the way down to, I can't remember if it was like paper clips or needles, but it was like astronomical. There was a constant refining of that metal. And this is what teams miss. This is what this topic is about. It's the constant refining of those strategies to generate conversions from the leads that you go out there, buy, generate yourself, right? but to have it in a consistent manner. I mean, imagine if you had a needle factory. Sometimes you produced, half as many needles as the other times. Like, well, what's going on, right? Oh, well, sometimes the machine breaks down, or sometimes we don't have the metal, the raw materials, which in this analogy would be the leads, right? Okay, solvable problem. Like, let's figure out all the ways to solve it. But the main thing that's the most frustrating that a lot of agents don't feel, they don't see, and they don't know, and sometimes they never figure it out. What happens is they have this goal, right? It's a big goal, and when the constraint is too much, right? It's too tight. They shrink back down. They're like, oh, never mind. I'll just have a small team, or I'm just going to go back to being solo and being a solo agent, and not having all these headaches. Well, it's much better if you can break through the other side and cross that chasm. That's how we came up with the product that we have as far as pre-positioned appointments in the first place, because we recognize that. Like, it's so hard to install these systems, right, while the overhead is cranking, to get ISAs in place, to get, and I'm not trying to turn this into a commercial, but this is literally the thought process that we went through, to get all those things in place, and then wait for the delayed gratification of them, in order to build yourself a business and build yourself a team. And that's literally the challenge for our ideal client profile. That's the challenge that they have to deal with, right? But if you know that and you have some awareness of it, then you can start shifting your thinking and doing something differently about it, right? You can understand the process, you can understand what you have to do as far as your responsibilities, and you can make sure that you have a system that you've mastered, so that you're not guessing, so that you're not asking for something unreasonable out of your team. Like, hey, this is the conversion rate that I expect, right? On listing appointments, I would set listing appointments with my ISAs, and I've told this story before. But I was looking at the conversion rate of the agents that I was sending those to, right? And they have to be the top agents. I wasn't going to send out the newbies, right, for these good listing appointments. I would take the listing appointments, but I was trying to move myself a little bit more out of production. And, when I looked at the conversion rate of appointment to listing, it was low. I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he was like, well, have you ever looked at yours? And I was like, yeah, mine's amazing. I'm stellar. I'm like, actually, no. He's like, well, what is it? And I was like, oh, I guess I don't have hard data on that. I have like revisionist history. Let me check it out. Mine was like a couple of digit points above there. Yeah. But here's the thing. I had a system, right? We had a listing presentation. We were all reading from the same sheet of music. So I knew if they gave the presentation the same way that I did, even though it wasn't me with my name on the sign, they were still representing us as a team. They should have relatively the same conversion rate. And I thought it was broke, but I didn't have the metrics. I didn't know. So I had to go back out, right? Start to get my metrics again, so that I could make sure that I was asking of them something that was really attainable and realistic,
Yep.
Yeah. But I didn't have people lead me to go to other brokerages. I didn't have high rates of turnover as far as my agents were concerned. They understood that they couldn't get what they had with us anywhere else, right? Like and it wasn't, Market Maker wasn't even a thing back then, right? They could go and had bought the lead gen websites that I had used. They could have gone and bought the lead gen platforms that I had. They didn't want to do that, because they couldn't necessarily recreate the conversion mechanisms as well. That's the thing. That's the proprietary benefit to being on a team, right? They've got the mechanisms in place, they got the training in place, they understand the system, they understand the goal, they know how to lead you to mathematic certainty as far as your success is concerned. And it's symbiotic, right? Like, you win, they win.
Exactly. And one other major hole in the bucket that I see that doesn't seem that bad. It's like one of those things that you probably don't measure like what the most ideal scenario would be, because it's such a long-term play, is the nurturing process, right? So a lot of mega teams naturally have branding in the marketplace and like do big media stuff. So the people in their database are constantly getting nurtured, not super intentionally, right? But they're getting nurtured just because there's a big shotgun approach going out to the entire market. And then there's this conversion mechanism of, while they're being nurtured, they have people on their team just like calling through old leads and stuff. But how much is going on to the database? Like, I've seen some teams that are all over old leads, and they live in there and they're constantly making calls, checking in. And then I've seen other people that are like, I've got leads that are 3 years old and I haven't talked to them for 2 years and 11 months, and it's so much money that's just sitting in there that if you went back, the most mind-numbing stat I ever had was when we were doing the test brokerage here in Dallas.
Mhm.
And they ended up the first full year, they closed 268 deals, right? Generated some absurd amount of nurtures. So people that said that they were going to be listing within the next 12 months, it was like 2,900 or something like that. Nurtures.
Mhm.
And Jeff and his team went in and pulled all the data from the MLS of the addresses and cross-referenced that with the nurtures in the system that didn't list with us. And it was over closed transactions of people that we had talked to was over $2.5 million in commission.
So, and just to be clear, like that was a very robust team with very robust marketing, right? But that in and of itself is the bottleneck. How do we get more touches to these people so that we stay top of mind with benefits of doing business with us consistently based on a system that we don't have to touch, it does it for us, right? In order to not lose that kind of money. And this isn't how agents think. They just think so short term, and especially like new teams, right? New teams, they don't know what they don't know, and they're trying to figure it out, but they don't have the staying power or the bandwidth to be able to do it because they have fear, right? Which is understandable, but if you could just like be a fly on the wall in a mega agent's business and listen to the way they operate, right? Like how would that change your business? I mean, that's part of what we do here on these lives, right? We're trying to pull the curtain back and show you some things, change the way that you think about it so that you can have a new strategy. But if you would have not had that data, right, and not done that research, you would have thought, well, this is just what it is, right? No
right.
way to
And just right. But the way that we thought about it was we got some of those people to convert, right? But was that percentage acceptable? And it was like, holy cow! Like the amount of revenue left on the table per agent and stuff was just mind numbing. It was like, but that led to the question of like, what else could we do, right? And what else? I mean, like we like went down the path of like crazy nurture strategies of like looking at what their likes were on Facebook and that kind of stuff, which was probably a little bit overboard. But for that many nurtures, like that's worth so much money that even if you captured another 10%, that's $200,000, right? That's a significant chunk of change.
And a lot of times it's just little shifts like that make a huge difference in the business for agents. But like I said, I think that the biggest threat right now is if your agents aren't making the kind of money that they used to, if they're essentially losing all the time to multiple offer situations, right, running all around town and not making ends meet like they used to, they're going to be looking for alternative strategies. They're going to be looking for how to fix that for themselves, right? And again, if you have someone that's in the market that is good at communicating a benefit of doing business with them as a team, right, or as a brokerage, they're going to be listening to that signal. They're going to be tuning into that, right? And if it were me, I would just be running all kinds of seller lead angles, generating basically home evaluation leads. And I'd be pulling those people in and showing them in the system, like, look, here's what I got, right? If I got you this, could you make some money with it? If I taught you what to say to these people when you meet with them, could you make money with it? If I gave you a conversion rate that made sure that at least 25% of every listing appointment that you went on, you took the listing, right? Or 50% or 75% or whatever the number is, always go under, don't go over, right? Like under promise and over deliver. Do you think you could make some money with that? Do you think you can make some money with that if I teed these up for conversations for you to have with these people or set appointments with them, right? Like, what's your current company doing? What's your current team doing to help you with this new shift in this market? In market shifts, there's new winners and there's new losers, right? Mm-hmm. And what works today is not what will work tomorrow. So, you gotta roll with it. I love Warren Buffett. He says he reads like six hours a day, right? Like I wish I had that time. But I probably do. I wish I had this. But seriously, because he's like, what worked 10 years ago is not what will work today. He's like, if I just stuck to what I did 10 years ago, he's like, we wouldn't be where we are. It's always changing. You got to be constantly learning and adjusting the strategy. But I think Again, Jake, the biggest mistake is just not rolling your sleeves up and doing it yourself as a team leader to vet out, right, the opportunity before you pass it on to your agents. And I mean, I've told friends that when they're like, "Hey, I want to get on marketing," I was like, "All right, here's what you're going to do. You're going to get one agent, two, possibly depending on lead flow and your budget, on the system to set the watermark. If you're not in production, if you're in production, you need to be taking these appointments and these calls yourself." And most of them are great for that advice. They're like, "Okay, yeah, I'll do that." Some of them are more successful than probably 99% of the other agents out there, and they still are like, "Okay, I'll do that. I'll take the calls. I'm gonna take it." That's what it takes. And then once you got it, you got a system, then you got something that you can deliver value to your other team members. Yeah, like here you go, right? And then it's an assembly line.
Yep.
And the
buddy.
equation is how much you add.
How fast do you want the water to flow?
Yeah. Well, I got started a little rough on this one. We were waffling back and forth on the couple of topics that we had picked out, but hopefully we deliver value. Hopefully we gave you a little shift in your paradigm and the way that you think, and hopefully you'll be looking for answers and roll up your sleeves and test and vet things out yourself and make the shift in this market so you can continue to make the income that you desire.
Yeah, buddy. Let's do it.
If you'd like some help with these things, that's what we do here at Market Maker. What I want you to do is go to marketmakercall.com, check out how we generate leads for you, nurture those leads in a way that elevates your status and authority in the mind of those leads, and then ultimately delivers them to your calendar as an appointment. Marketmakercall.com.
As we always say here at Market Maker, you are always just one pre-position appointment away.
Every day. That's
Go
right.
get it.